Hi there, Mandy Friedman here, licensed professional clinical counselor, clinically certified domestic violence counselor, clinically certified trauma professional, level 2, the creator of SNAP, survivors of narcissistic and abusive personalities. Back with my brother, Andrew. We're talking about Succession, season 4, episode 5, Kill List. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Mandy. I'm happy to be back. This episode is fascinating because Logan has died and his children are not mourning. They are continuing to be businessmen because this is what they think he would want them to do. And that's kind of what this episode explores a little bit, along with the story of who's going to succeed. I think it was in the last episode, Kendall had ordered hit pieces out on his father. He made Hugo do it. And that was to kind of make himself look better. In this episode, Shiv finds the hit pieces and brings it up to Kendall. And by his reaction, she knows it's him immediately, right? He's like, yeah, Hugo, go after those guys. And Hugo's like, yeah, right away. Kind of like rolls his eyes. Shiv knows what's up, but Kendall distracts her by offering to let her fire Tom.
Yeah, like throwing her a bone, like, hey, we can fire Tom if you want. That'll make you feel better. But really, it's, Hugo, he threatened Hugo in the last episode and said, do this or else, because he had some leverage on Hugo. And then he yells at Hugo for allowing it to happen. Then he changes the subject. Let's fire Tom. And she's like, that's interesting, but maybe let's not pull the trigger on that. She doesn't really go for it. She appreciates the gesture, though.
She has irons in the fire, as we will learn, all right? More than one. That will be explored in this episode. Tom, on the other hand, is very uncomfortable right now. He's uncomfortable with the Sharks. The Sharks are worried about their future. We get an awesome speech by Jerry. All of the Sharks are sitting there, including some red shirt Sharks that are just guys that showed up out of nowhere so they can get fired later, pretty much, right?
You said red shirt Sharks.
Yeah,
like from Star Trek.
Jerry is like, listen, we're Americans. And she gives the speech. She said, the Euros are soft, and we were raised by wolves exposed to a pathogen known as Logan Roy. And Hugo doesn't necessarily agree. He just kind of shakes his head and he says, we're snakes on a plane.
I have had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane.
So there's a lot of wildlife metaphors happening right there. But interestingly enough, there is a book called Snakes in Suits by Robert Hare, who is the foremost researcher and most well-known researcher and expert on psychopaths. And Snakes in Suits is about white-collar psychopaths. And this is what we've been talking about all of these episodes about Succession, these white-collar types. And they lack empathy, and they treat people like objects, and they're parasitic. And they'll throw anyone under the bus. They don't care about how their business decisions hurt people in the world or help people in the world. They are there for their own status and to make money. So Snakes in Suits, great book if you want to learn about white-collar psychopaths, or you could just watch Succession.
Yeah, and listen to us talk about it,
Yeah.
We have a theme that's throughout the episode. It's almost every scene because there is a retreat, a yearly retreat that the Swedes always go on. And Madsen wants the children to come there to negotiate, and he wants them to bring everybody. They all go to Norway together, even though it's a Swedish company. It's in Norway. That's confusing everyone as well. But we have these beautiful vistas and scenes everywhere. How do the characters react to the scenery?
They don't care about it. I think that Kendall, when he gets into his room, says that he already has dirt on his shoes, and that irritates him. He says that the room is small. Roman's complaining about the swag bag that they left with their logos and stuff on it, and he's going to jerk off on them or something. They're in the most gorgeous place you could ever be, and they're just really annoyed by being there, and they don't notice at all the beauty that's around them. But to be fair, the Swedes don't seem to either. Madsen, we know he doesn't give a shit about this stuff. He really doesn't. And I think that just goes to show you even more that psychopathic element is that they're not moved by spiritual things. They're not moved by beauty or things that would evoke emotion. In a normal person or a non-psychopathic person would show up to that place and be like, wow, I can't believe I'm actually here. This is amazing, and like awestruck by it. But instead, these people are like, my shoes are dirty. Like, okay.
Throughout the episode, we have 2 points where Connor calls and he has some information. Can you describe the situation that's going on with Connor that is nowhere near Norway, that is back at the, Roy's home?
One thing I love about how they presented this is that when we see what's going on back home, we just see it through Connor as he calls. We don't know, they're not showing us anything of what's going on in preparation for Logan Roy's funeral. We don't know what's going on. But Connor calls and he says that Marcia has stepped in and that she is going to dress Logan in a kilt. And that this just cannot happen, but he needs support. At some point, Shiv says, what is it that you need from us? Like, we're busy. We're doing more important things, I guess. And we need you to just handle this. And he's like, I will handle it. I just need carte blanche, meaning I'm going to take over. I'm going to make decisions and I don't want to be criticized. And he says, I don't want to be blamed. So in other words, if this doesn't go well, don't blame me. But if it does go well, I'll take the credit.
The Logan family credo. He kind of explains how it all works right there. Fantastic. But that will come back later. He does mention that he could send a photo to Roman, and Roman doesn't want that photo. 3 times in the episode, we have negotiations with Mattson. The first time, the children show up with their whole entourage. They got all the sharks. They got everybody. They got the red shirts even. Everybody's there, right? Mattson comes alone. And I love the power play between these 2 groups because Mattson comes alone as a power move where the children bring the whole crew as a power move. Plus, he said he wanted them there, right? He sets up things and then moves the goalposts on them, right, to make them feel uncomfortable. This room that they're in is literally made of glass. And there's the phrasing, you don't throw rocks in a glass house, which means don't be a hypocrite is what it is. And everyone in the room is a hypocrite. They're just yelling at each other and being manipulative. And I thought that was a very good choice of a setting. There is some anger, some barbs are thrown. Mattson's very manipulative, and they all leave the negotiating table to take a beat.
They're playing games. What I remember is it was almost like that they thought they were all supposed to be there. Right. And so they all show up to that meeting and then he's just there with his hood on by himself. Then he's like, oh, I see you brought everybody. And they're like, oh, no, yeah, we did. So did they bring everyone to try to show, like a unified front? Or were they instructed that they were all supposed to be there? And then now he's like accusing them of doing a power move when they really weren't. And then he's the one that's actually doing the power move by showing up by himself. The power moves are starting to get a little, they're kind of getting a little complicated. Like which is the power move happening now? Kendall says, you want to just do this, just us. The 2 of them talk and the rest of them go away. And during that talk is when Mattson says, I want ATN too. Now here comes another power play. He knows that ATN is sort of the heart and soul that was Logan Roy. That's really what Logan had carved out that he wanted to keep. One of Logan's last moments was him standing up on the box and giving his roaring speech, which was great. Mattson knows that that's near and dear to their heart. And remember that with psychopathic, narcissistic people, they like to find out where your soft spots are. And when they find out what your soft spot is, like say your father dying or, something that's important to you that is emotional, things you're emotionally attached to, they're going to weaponize that as much as possible. And you see that that's what Mattson's doing here. He's trying to mess with them by saying, I think I'm just going to take everything and then I'm just going to do whatever I want with it. And that does not sit well with Kendall.
All of the sharks are expecting a bump, too. That's something that's discussed a lot, meaning going into the negotiation, what they want is a bigger number coming their way. And that's what the shareholders are going to want and everything like that. So when Matsson says, hey, I want to buy ATN too, that's actually a good thing, right? As far as business wise. So it splits the children down the middle with their feelings. They're like, well, this is the right business move. It's going to give us the bump, right? But it's not what our dad would do. And that's something that is a struggle that you see on the face of every one of them in this episode at many times. That was the second negotiation where he decided he wants to buy ATM. There's a third one coming up. But next, Matsson meets with Shiv kind of privately. And he acts like he's being vulnerable, but he's not. They do drugs, and he tells her about the blood brick. And I want to talk about the blood brick. And I want to talk about Ebba, a young lady that he introduces Shiv to, who he sent the blood brick to. This is Matsson trying to backdoor the brothers through Shiv, literally, pun intended. That's what he's trying to do. And Shiv, as we discussed before, has many irons in the fire. She knows what she's doing right here. Tell us all about Matsson and his weirdo ways.
Matsson obviously has a strange relationship with women in general and doesn't know how to act appropriately. He's sort of like Roman in that sense. You know, he has some weird sexual proclivities, and he's describing to Shiv a predicament that he is in. They have been doing drugs, and I think they were doing cocaine. So they're especially chatty and open, or at least, you know, he seems to be. And he was saying something along the lines of that he had a girlfriend or someone that he was seeing, as if it was a dating relationship. It started off as a joke that he sent her his blood, like a full pint of blood.
Frozen in a brick. Yes.
Frozen in a brick. And then he doesn't really go into a lot of detail, but then, you know, he keeps doing it. And then it's not a joke, but then, you know, maybe it is a joke, and then it's not a joke, but now it's an actual problem, and it's Ebba. So, wow. Now Shiv's like, wait, okay, so you're sending your blood to someone that works for you and basically sexually harassing her in one of the most weird, most sick ways possible. She said, you know, if you've got that kind of stuff going on, when you take over, they're going to be digging into you. They're going to find this out, and you're going to get roasted for these kinds of behaviors. This can't come out. You certainly should not fire her. So she's sort of giving him like some PR tips related to this situation with him sending his blood to her. I mean, why would it be romantic to him? Maybe in the beginning, maybe he really thought that he liked Ebba. Maybe he thought he was actually in love with Ebba at first, or at least he was obsessed with her. And how can I demonstrate my level of how much I'm into you? Well, I'm going to give you my blood. But as a side note, we also know that Matsson in a different series is a vampire.
Yes, true.
Alexander Skarsgård is in True Blood, and
he plays Eric.
Yeah, he's Eric, and boy is he. And one of the first places that I really like Alexander Skarsgård. He is amazing. He's great in that. I would imagine his psychopathic brain, not understanding people, thought that would be some sort of a grandiose gesture, but then is met with not the response that he was expecting. And then probably is thinking, well, fuck you, I'm going to do it anyway now. You think it's weird? I'm going to show you it's not weird. I'm going to do it a lot more, and you're going to learn to like it, and no one's going to make me feel weird about doing something weird. So he might actually have some insecurities that come out when it comes to women, right? He also knows that he can use women in an emotional way, like the fact that he's coming on to Shiv and acting like he likes her and trying to buddy up with her. That would probably be similar how he would have buddied up with Ebba. Mm-hmm. You know, so maybe he has a mommy issue. One of the most manipulative things he does when he's talking to Shiv is he says that I really like you, You remind me of your dad. For Shiv, that's probably one of the biggest compliments you could pay her. But I think she's still a little bit uncertain when he does pay her that compliment. Like, I don't know about you. That was a smart move of him to say that about her.
She loves it when he says that. We talked about before how Kendall will do things with the press to he knows how to manipulate the press to get what he wants. Well, he decides he's going to leak some information about the negotiations because he is mad at Matsson for the second negotiation tactic of trying to take ATN. He decides, you know what? I don't want to do this thing at all. I want to tank this entire thing. All right. So how can I do that? He tells Greg to leak information about the negotiations, how they're not going well. There's a whole thing about how they have this movie division that's bleeding money. And so he makes the Swedes watch that. So he has 3 hours to do whatever.
Kendall doesn't want to be told what to do. He doesn't want to lose power. He wants to have the upper hand. And he's seeing what's happening. And that is that Matsson's trying to cut them out. The episode is called Kill List. And Kendall doesn't want to be on the kill list either, even though he's not an executive, even though, it doesn't seem like that he would be. If they take ATN out and then they do to this company what they've done to other companies, because they did look into what their typical way is when they take over, they're all scared and no one wants to be on this kill list. And Kendall, as we know, anytime things seem to be going a certain way, he can't help himself. He has to get in, like you said, he has to get in and call attention to himself or sabotage. He loves to sabotage things. And so that's what he's going to do. Now he tells Roman, hey, let's try to tank it, right? But he cuts Shiv out of this. Shiv is not really involved, even though she's there. They're very carefully just tossing her a bone from time to time, but they're not really telling her what's going on, even though she's smart enough to kind of figure things out on her own. But him saying to Matsson, hey, by the way, we've got this department that's hemorrhaging money, and, then sitting them all down, making them watch this whole thing. Oh, by the way, the day before, when Kendall tells his assistant about this, I want this, and this, and the whole 3 hours, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay, for when? He's like, tomorrow morning. She's like, okay. And you see Jess is getting more and more fed up with him as time goes by. But they sit and watch the movie. You can see their faces, and the energy is just draining out of them. Ebba leaves. Ebba, you can tell, realizes that she has some leverage. And so she kind of does what she wants. She's like, it was so lovely and I really enjoyed it. And so I'm leaving is what she said. But yeah, I mean, he is trying to tank it by making these moves. And there's some divide and conquer happening. He's doing divide and conquer by getting all of them to watch the movie so that, he can have Matsson alone. Matsson was doing some divide and conquer by, getting Shiv to herself aside from her brothers. They're all making these really amazing moves and then trying to figure out who's making what move and on which level. Because we also have Greg making moves, Tom's making moves. Everyone there is jockeying for position.
We get to the kind of main event of this episode, and how it starts is that Roman and Ken are on their way to the top of the mountain once again to negotiate with Matsson one final time. They're alone in the rail car, and Roman gets a picture from Connor of his father in the casket, and you can tell he was not ready for that. He didn't want to see that, and not only he is not ready to deal with this, regardless of when it's happened or how it's happened. He does not want to deal with it.
I thought he pre-grieved.
he didn't pre-grieve enough. I think that the ratio of pre-grieving you have to do with actual grieving, it's a lot of pre-grieving. So these two are not over his death, and this comes out in an emotional way. Mandy, I'm sure you could tell us all about how, when someone is angry and outbursts about something, there's a lot to that. It's not just they're mad about whatever they're saying they're mad about. In this case, what happens is Matsson and Ken, they walk around literally on top of this majestic mountain with beauty everywhere you look. And Matsson calls him out for trying to tank the deal. And he wants to buy now fast, and he starts jabbing at him. He calls, this might be earlier, but he calls Ken the Volter dude, and he's got all these little jabs that he knows are going to cut him deep. And Roman has had enough, and he loses his mind, and he just starts screaming at Madsson while Madsen's peeing. So we have another wildlife metaphor type thing going on. Ken stands with Roman. Mandy, if a deal collapses in the woods and no one hears it, is it an SEC violation?
I guess we'll find out. So many hilarious quips and, witty banter and things that are said that are, there's so much of it we don't even catch it all. But Roman's yelling at Madsson. He's saying, you couldn't have postponed this a few days. You knew our father just died. You are doing all of this on purpose. You're making a power move by forcing all of us to come here when you know what we're all going through. And he calls him a bunch of names and basically tells him to fuck off. And yeah, we are trying to kill it because look at you. We don't want to be in business with you. Look what you're doing to us. And Kendall doesn't really say much, does he? I mean, he kind of lets Roman go on, but Roman is definitely triggered by having seen the picture of his father in the casket and has decided that he's going, well, I don't know if he's decided, right? Because when we're triggered, we're not really deciding. He channels his emotions and anger at Madsson in that moment. And I think he's trying to additionally kill the deal by chewing him out and saying, I don't like you. I haven't liked you. Do you remember what you said to me? You asked me when my dad was going to die. He said, it's your fault that dad died because you were making him fly all over the place. You're making this go on and on for 6 months. Guess what? That's what's going to happen now. We're not going to answer your emails now moving forward. We're going to drag our feet just like you were dragging your feet. You want games? We'll give you games. So Roman's really letting him have it. And then you see a helicopter taking off. And we know that must be Madsson, right? That Madsson is leaving the retreat in his helicopter, but then Kendall and Roman are left up by themselves at the top of the mountain, the Piedon Mountain, waiting for their car to take them down. Roman is starting to unravel now, and I think we'll see more of that unraveling as the episodes go on.
When Roman says to Madsson, it's your fault, is he projecting a little?
Yeah, I mean, I think he is worried that it was his fault. Because remember, he called and left that voicemail, and he was really worried that his dad had received the voicemail. The one time he stands up to his dad, the one time he's like, you know what, this is wrong, and I'm not going to do it. And then he feels tremendous guilt. And for a while, you could tell he thought that maybe going against his father was what made him collapse. So now he's saying, you were the one that made him collapse. And then he can feel better, like, this wasn't me, it was him. Well, Madsson liked Logan, even though he called him a dick in this moment. One of the jabs that he made is like, your dad was a dick. And then they're like, Dad wasn't a dick.
Roman says my dad wasn't a dick.
Everyone knows that your dad was a dick.
The sharks are on the plane, and the sharks are in the dark. Madsson makes a phone call, and this is wild. He calls Frank. Now, in that discussion on the mountain, he had said, do I need to go around you? Do I need to talk to the old ones? Is what he said, right? Well, they think at first, is he going around them? But he's not. He calls Frank, and he has a revised offer. They got the bump. He wants everything, and they got the bump, right? And everyone is very pleased. And it's great because the beginning of the episode, we have Roman and Kendall in the office building everyone's kissing their ass. And now at the end of the episode, everyone's kissing their ass because of this great success that they've, achieved. It is hilarious.
The sharks didn't know about the ATN part, right? Because that was just Madsson telling Roman and Kendall that he wanted ATN too. So I believe that when Frank got that call and they said that they wanted ATN and here's the bump, and they're all happy about it. They don't care about ATN,
no,
the sharks. They don't give a shit about it. They are ready to dump it. And you're right. They're so happy. and you look over and the kids are like, yeah, I mean, Roman and Kendall, like, oh, thanks, guys. So they're like, good work, good work. But then Shiv gets a call, and it's Mattson. He asks her to take a picture of her brothers so that he can see their faces. So he knows what they were trying to do. He knows that they were trying to kill the deal. And in a way, he does go around them to Frank.
Yeah, good
and
call.
Tells Frank about the deal. So then that way, there's all this pressure for Roman and Kendall to have to accept the deal, because everyone's going to see what a great deal it is, and they want to get rid of ATN anyway. And it's like a free and clear thing. But we know that Roman and Kendall were trying to kill it, so they are not happy. So she snaps a little picture. When you look across, both Roman and Kendall are just like sunk into their chair, just like, not excited, not happy at all. But it's interesting, Shiv in this episode and Tom. Shiv and Tom have a few encounters, and they're pretty nasty. But Shiv is, like you said, has some pokers in the fire. She's trying to figure out where she belongs. She's been doing that for a long time. And as this season continues to progress, Shiv becomes more and more key in what's going on, because her need to have a position of power that her father never gave her. Additionally, with her being edged out by her brothers constantly, they're always cutting her out. They're never cutting her in. So that puts her in a position of having to play this whole separate game. She's going to divorce Tom. She's not going to divorce Tom. We know she's pregnant. She hasn't told anybody that she's pregnant. You can see that she's trying to figure out which path is the best path for her, but she wants to keep all the options open. So she's willing to talk to Mattson. She's still kind of, listening and figuring out what's going on with her brothers. But she also knows that Tom is still wanting to have his position at ATN. So she's feeding him information to try to help him, and that confuses him. He doesn't understand. And she does something where she's like, your shoes are so bright, you're going to blind people. And she's like making fun of him and kicking dirt on his white sneakers, which is very childish. And then he like flicks her earlobe and she's like, ow, and then shocked that he did that back to her. But now this is their conversation. They're talking now. They hurt each other. That's what they do. They have that kind of banter. And so the fact that they're bantering in that way is almost like, are we talking now? This is us talking.
Shiv makes sure that she is the one to tell Tom about the sale because his job's in jeopardy, and she watches him squirm. But then she says, well, we're going to have to fire somebody. Sid's going to be out. You want to fire Sid? And he's like, huh? And she's playing mind games with him. And while this is happening, Mattson calls and flirts with her over the phone. And she does that right in front of Tom after she just flirted with him and asked him out. So she's playing mind games, but she knows him, and she knows what's going to keep him on the hook. And this is the bullshit that they pull with each other. So he's on the hook now, right? And so is Mattson. And so are the brothers. And so is, we don't know who else. So, Shiv's taking care of Shiv. And this is what she's always done from the very beginning of the show. Right,
exactly. And I think we need to focus a little bit on that and remember, looking back at the seasons, of how Shiv has had to rely on Shiv and why. Why does she have to do these, backdoor games? Why does she have to keep pokers in the fire? She always has to have her options open. And the reason is because no one has her back. I think Tom would have her back, but she doesn't know how to let someone love her. She's never been loved in a way that she knows how to love. And he would like to love her, but their relationship has always been very thorny and strange, right? But yet he's the closest thing she has to experiencing trust in a relationship. She's starting to realize that maybe the best power move is to help Tom.
She's got her options open. There's even a part in this episode where Kendall and Roman are discussing Shiv. Kendall calls her Pinky. He says, can Pinky play? And Roman goes, we know she can't.
Right. So she's being, cut out of things this whole time. She gets the carrot on the stick, but now daddy's not around. Logan's not around to even do the carrot part. Like she never gets the carrot, but at least Logan would dangle one. The brothers just sort of try to keep her happy by not pissing her off, but they're certainly not really including her at all. And I think she's just feeling more and more like an outsider. And now she's pregnant. We can assume that it's Tom's. And so what's she going to do now? How is she going to navigate now moving forward? And Mattson's hitting on her. So, if he takes over, would she be able to somehow still be a part of things through Mattson? Or maybe just by talking to him, that's how she can try to figure out what's going on, because she knows that her brothers aren't actually telling her anything. She likes to have the inside scoop. So she's working every angle she possibly can.
Pretty soon, Mandy, we get to talk about Logan's funeral, maybe next.
That is probably, I like to say, my favorite episode about so many episodes. But yeah, I think that the funeral episode is my favorite episode. So I'm really looking forward to talking about that. Thank you for watching or listening. Bye. Is that what's next?
We'll find out next time.
We'll find out next time.